What is he up to now? Stay tuned and all will be revealed. Well, good morning everyone and welcome to Piccadilly. Now, if you remember from the last video, I was left with two problems which not caused by this train at all, but this train was affected by them because that's Glossop and this train came all the way down here over the bridge down through Dinting, which is just there. Okay, through Dinting Station, across Dinting Viaduct, all the way down there, and then comes in underneath those two tunnel mouths. Bearing in mind the scenery has been removed, so the track goes literally around there and then comes back down the side there, hopefully you can see. Now, we had a derailment over there, and the reason for that is because, as I said at the end of the last video, there was huge amounts of debris all over the track. So I've cleaned that out. I've had the vacuum cleaner up there. I haven't run a train over it yet. I have to be honest, I need to check that, but I'm hoping that's fine. Now, if I bring you in at this point here, hopefully you can see that this part of the back scene is very close to the track just here. Now, if I press it, there is an amount of give there. It's very resistant and very difficult there, and lots of give there. Why? Because there is a shelf here, you can see, and the bracket runs right down this area here. So the only way I can sensibly think of doing this is to actually move the tracks. Now, what I obviously need to do is move them across probably about a centimetre, a little bit more if I can. And if I wet the track all the way down here, I might be able to just bring it over just a tiny little bit. Now, I need to vacuum this area before I do an awful lot, but it should be a bit of an easier job than I first anticipated, because I had a bank here and that sits just there. Now, I'll be honest, I'd forgotten completely that I'd made that removable, and I'm so glad that I did. I've also removed the carriage shed, which normally sits here, just in case you realise there's two sections of that length. The other one is there, and there's a short bit in the middle. I'll explain more about that when we eventually come to it. But hopefully, if I wet that and remove some of the ballast, it shouldn't be as massive a job as I first thought. So let's make a start. Right, as you can see, I've just lifted the track, I've wet the track, and now it's a case of going in with an old bread knife and just sort of lifting it up very gently, so on, like that. Okay, I'll catch you later. The next problem then, so the job is growing as you probably anticipated it probably would. Despite all my efforts to get this track up without damaging it, it's not going to happen. So I'm going to have to take out that bit and then cut the track probably around about here. So it's probably around about a foot away from the affected area, which is just there. Okay, so hopefully I can bring the tracks across. Hey, what a scene of devastation this is. So what I'm going to have to do is, as you can see, I've taken out the track and cut it there. And I think it would be wise to take out the track right to this point, this joint here, and then it'll be just a case of putting new tracks in, going around the corner. I do need that crossover though, that's the only thing, because it would be even more complicated, I think, or would it be? I don't know. I'll have to have a think about it, but the problem is I've got to fit it into the boards. So if I can fit a crossover in there between that point and that point, it might work, but I don't know. We'll have a think. Right, but I'll catch you shortly. What has he been up to now? He's ripped up half the track. Yeah, but for very good reason. Now, obviously, I have to deal with this area here with the expanding backscene. So tracks needed to be replaced here, as I've been saying up to this point anyway. But down here, you may also remember, I did say I wanted to replace the old electrofrog points with electrofrog points. Let's have a quick look just to show you. That is an electrofrog point. How do I know? Because this piece of black plastic here is insulating this V. Okay, that is an electrofrog. If you see the difference, this one is pretty much all metal around this area here. Now what that means is I can have current running pretty much right the way through with only that tiny amount of gap for a train to have to bridge. Whereas on this piece, a train has to jump probably about 3/4 of an inch, and sometimes a train will stop because it loses power, because at that point obviously there is only power on one side of the track and this bit is missing. So these points are a lot better for what I want to do for this than these points. But anyway, that's where I am. I'm going to see what points I need, if I need to buy any new points or whether I've got what I need. And if you remember, I bought a whole load to replace the points in this area of devastation here. So there are some electrofrog points in there too that need to be replaced at some point, but this is now the priority. Anyway, I'll catch you shortly. So this is the new layout, if you like. So I've got the 3 new electrofrog points there, and they are the new ones. They are just placed, none of this is glued down. So what you'll notice is that the 3 tracks will come out of this area here, run pretty much parallel until you get to about here. Then these 2 tracks widen out ever so slightly to accommodate the crossover, as I've explained before, and then obviously they close back up again and then rejoin the branch line at that point there. Okay, so all I need to do really is to get some more track. As you can realize, I've only got these odd bits at the moment and it does look an absolute sight. So some new bits of track, some nice new flexi track will do the job nicely. That point does need to be replaced because you can probably realize that is an electrofrog point. That one there is an electrofrog, as I've pointed out to you before. So there's no value in doing any of this if I'm not going to replace that, because I'm going to end up coming back to it in the future, and it's going to be a much more difficult a job to change that point if I've glued it all down, ballasted, etc, etc. So once I've got all that, I can start. The only thing I can sensibly do in the meantime is to build this area out, because obviously I've got to get the track from that height down to ground. So there's got to be a slope built there from papier-mâché. But anyway, I can crack on with that. And once I've got all the track, I'll see you at some other point in the future. Take care of yourself. Speak soon. Right, I've done a bit more, and that is to add the slope. In fact, I did that probably about 3 or 4 days ago, and I've had so many other things I've had to do. It's just unbelievable, you know what it's like. So the next plan is to start putting the track down. Now, I will show you these. You might be thinking, what's that? You'd probably be right. As I said, I'm not using cork anymore under the track, but I have done in the past, which means then that these tracks here are excessively high. So if I put that in first, which is 2mm, that's the same thickness as the cork, then I can put the track on top of that, glue it down, no issues at all, hopefully. That's the plan. So there we are. I've managed to relay a little bit of the track. So this junction is down. There's 3 points in there, as you've seen before. So this point here will connect up to that track there, and those 2 tracks will go up. There's another point to go in there, which will join up to that one, and then 2 tracks to continue up to those 2 up there. Okay, so it will take a little while, I'm not going to lie. It doesn't mean I take my time with it, but I'm not going to bend over backwards to rush it. But I'm hoping this will be done by next week and wired and running. We'll see how things go. I'm not going to promise. But what I am thinking is this area here, the carriage shed or the lift, as you can see. So this is a lift bed. And trains can go down to the Fiddle yard down below. I'm not going to show, but that's been an unmitigated disaster, purely because over the years expansion and contraction, and trains or the tracks just don't line up, and it's been a real nightmare to try and get a train from here down to the bottom without coming off the tracks at least 3, 4, 5, 6 times. And so I've decided that I'm not going to go there. Now, I have made mention, particularly at Christmas, about putting in ramps. And to be honest with you, that's going to be an enormous job. Much bigger than this, obviously, much, much bigger. It's going to cost a heck of a lot of money. And to be honest with you, I'm thinking, why? Is it actually going to make the layout better? And I think, no, I don't think it is. Down below, it's going to be very difficult to keep it running. It's difficult enough to keep this running, as you can appreciate, with 5 stations. There aren't many layouts that have got 5 stations like this. But that's why I built it like this, so trains have got somewhere to go. That's the point of this layout. But I think what I'm planning on doing is get rid of these sheds and have 4 sidings. So a train can come out of Piccadilly, come round clockwise, come in here, park up, and then come out again and go around the other way, and then back into Piccadilly. So I'm going to have to get rid of this concreting and then put another track here somehow, and then likewise here somewhere. Now, the ins and outs of it, I don't know at the moment. It's going to take a lot of thinking about. And so this is not going to happen straight away, but I think I've been building to this over the last 2 years, to be honest, because I've been thinking about this, the carriage shed not working for the last 2 years. I haven't taken a train down to the Fiddle yard for at least 2 years, maybe even 3, because it's such a nightmare. Whereas if it's all connected up on one board, i.e. this board is fixed, and not on the top of the actuator, then the tracks are joined together, and therefore the sidings will be a lot more durable than they are now. I mean, I can't get a train down here because I get a load of debris. You can see it there, can't you? The debris in there will derail it, and so it's very difficult to keep it clean with the actual building there. And so I think having it out in the open, I think would be a better solution, to be fair. On the Midland Main Line, there's been some sidings built near Kettering for the Class 360s, and they're all out in the open. There's about 8 to 10 tracks there to take double length 4-car trains, so 8-car units, and there's about 8 tracks, 10 tracks for those trains to sit in. Now, you know, so I think to do the similar sort of thing with sidings out in the open will work just as well, and I can still have maintenance buildings here, whatever. So if you've got any suggestions, then please do say, but I think it might be a good idea to get that done reasonably soon. We'll see how it goes. Okay, but anyway, I think I'm going to leave the video there, and you can see, hopefully we'll start getting things put back together very, very soon here on Piccadilly. Now you take care of yourself, and I'll speak to you very soon. Bye for now.